Security? Security. Emily's voice cut through the beautiful church like a knife. Everyone gasped. This was supposed to be the happiest day of Emily's life, but something was terribly wrong. Please remove that woman from my wedding, Emily said coldly, pointing at a woman in a simple yellow dress. She doesn't belong here. The woman's face went white with shock. Tears filled her eyes. Emily? Honey, it's me. It's your mother. But Emily turned away, refusing to look. I said remove her. Now. Security guards walked over to the crying woman. Everyone watched in horror as they escorted her out of the church. What Emily didn't know was that someone was recording everything. And this video was about to change both their lives forever. Hello, welcome to our story. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. This is where our story really begins. But to understand how we got to this shocking moment, we need to go back to the beginning, back to when Emily was just a little girl and Linda was a young mother who would do anything for her daughter. 20 years earlier. Linda was only 22 years old when Emily was born. She was young, scared and all alone. Emily's father had left before Emily was even born, saying he wasn't ready to be a dad. But Linda looked down at her tiny baby girl with the big brown eyes and made a promise. I will give you everything I can, she whispered to baby Emily. I will work as hard as I need to. You will have a better life than me. And that's exactly what Linda did. When Emily was little, Linda worked 2 jobs. During the day, she cleaned offices downtown. At night, she worked at a diner serving food to late-night customers. She would come home tired, with sore feet and hands that smelled like cleaning supplies. But no matter how tired Linda was, she always had time for Emily. Mommy, will you read me a story? Little Emily would ask. Of course, baby, Linda would say, even though she could barely keep her eyes open. She would sit on Emily's little bed and read story after story until Emily fell asleep. Linda didn't have much money. Their apartment was small and old. The paint was peeling off the walls and sometimes the heat didn't work in winter. But Linda made it feel like home. She would make pancakes shaped like hearts on Emily's birthday. She would save up for months just to buy Emily a new dress for school pictures. When Emily got sick, Linda would stay up all night, putting cool washcloths on her forehead and singing soft songs. Why do you work so much, Mommy? Emily asked one day when she was 7 years old. Linda knelt down to Emily's level and touched her cheek gently. Because I want you to have all the things I never had, Linda said. I want you to go to college. I want you to have nice clothes. I want you to never worry about money like I do. Emily hugged her mother tight. But I just want to spend time with you. Linda's heart melted. We'll always have time together, sweetheart. Always. As Emily got older, Linda worked even harder. She took extra shifts at the diner. She cleaned more offices. She saved every penny she could. When Emily wanted to take piano lessons, Linda found a way to pay for them, even though it meant eating peanut butter sandwiches for dinner 3 times a week. When Emily needed a dress for the school dance, Linda stayed up all night sewing one by hand because she couldn't afford to buy one. When Emily wanted to go to college, Linda took out loans and worked a 3rd job on weekends to help pay for it. Mom, you don't have to do all this, Emily said when she was 18, getting ready to leave for college. Yes, I do, Linda said, helping Emily pack her bags. This is what mothers do. We sacrifice so our children can have better lives. Emily hugged her mom at the train station. I promise I'll never forget everything you've done for me. I promise I'll take care of you when I'm older. Linda watched the train pull away, taking her daughter to college in the big city. She cried happy tears, knowing that all her hard work had paid off. Emily was going to have the life Linda had always dreamed of. But Linda didn't know that the big city would change Emily in ways she never expected. 4 years later, Emily came back from college different. She talked differently. She dressed differently. She seemed embarrassed by their small apartment and Linda's simple job. Mom, you really should try to get a better job, Emily would say. Maybe something more professional. Linda was confused. But honey, I like my job. The people at the diner are like family to me. Emily would just sigh and change the subject. Linda noticed other changes too. Emily would get upset when Linda called her at work. She would make excuses not to visit. When she did come home, she would look around their apartment like she was seeing it for the first time, and not liking what she saw. But Linda tried not to worry. Emily was just growing up, finding her own way in the world. That was normal, right? Then Emily met Ryan. Mom, I want you to meet someone special, Emily said one day on the phone. His name is Ryan and I really like him. Linda was excited. Her daughter was in love. I can't wait to meet him. Bring him over for dinner. I'll make your favorite spaghetti and meatballs. There was a long pause on the phone. Actually, Mom, Emily said slowly, maybe we could meet at a restaurant instead. You know, somewhere nice. Linda felt a little hurt, but she agreed. She wanted Emily to be happy. The restaurant Emily chose was fancier than any place Linda had ever been. The menus didn't even have prices on them. Linda wore her best. Ryan was tall and handsome, with expensive clothes and perfect teeth. But when he shook Linda's hand, his smile didn't reach his eyes. So, Linda, Ryan said during dinner, Emily tells me you work at a diner? Yes, Linda said proudly. I've been there for 15 years. It's honest work. Ryan nodded, but Linda could tell he was judging her. Throughout dinner, Emily kept apologizing for little things: Linda's accent, the way she held her fork, the stories she told about Emily's childhood. Mom, Ryan doesn't need to hear about that, Emily would say, looking embarrassed. Linda left dinner feeling confused and sad. This wasn't the Emily she had raised. What had happened to her loving, grateful daughter? But this was just the beginning. Things were about to get much worse. 6 months after meeting Ryan, Emily started visiting home less and less. When she did call, the conversations were short and cold. How are you doing, honey? Linda would ask. Fine, Mom. Look, I can't talk long. I'm busy, Emily would reply quickly. Busy with what? Are you eating enough? Do you need me to send you some money? Mom, I don't need your money anymore. Ryan takes care of everything. Linda felt a pain in her chest. She had always been the one to take care of Emily. Now her daughter didn't need her anymore. One day, Emily came home with a big announcement. Mom, Ryan asked me to marry him. Emily said, showing off a huge diamond ring that sparkled like a star. Linda should have been happy. Her daughter was getting married. But something felt wrong. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Linda said, trying to smile. When do I get to meet his family? Emily's face changed. Well, that's the thing, Mom. His family is different from us. Different how? Emily looked uncomfortable. They have a lot of money, Mom. They're used to fancy things. They might not understand our lifestyle. Our lifestyle? Linda repeated, hurt. You mean being poor? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Emily sighed. Look, Mom, I just want everything to be perfect. Can you try to, I don't know, be more like them? Linda stared at her daughter. You want me to pretend to be someone I'm not? I want you to try to fit in. For me. That night, Linda cried herself to sleep. When had her daughter become ashamed of her? A month later, Emily brought Linda to Ryan's family's house for dinner. The house was like a palace, huge, with marble floors and gold decorations everywhere. Ryan's mother, Mrs. Patterson, was a tall, thin woman with perfect hair and expensive jewelry. She looked Linda up and down like she was examining a bug. So you're Emily's mother, Mrs. Patterson said in a voice like ice. How interesting. Ryan's father barely looked at Linda. During dinner, they talked about things Linda didn't understand: expensive vacations, fancy wines, people Linda had never heard of. Linda, what do you do for work again? Mrs. Patterson asked, even though Emily had already told her. I work at Martha's Diner downtown, Linda said proudly. I've been there for 15 years. Mrs. Patterson's eyebrows went up. How quaint. Linda saw Emily sink lower in her chair, embarrassed. And Emily, Mrs. Patterson continued, you'll need to think about your wedding guest list carefully. We can't have just anyone at our country club. What do you mean? Linda asked. Ryan's mother smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. Well, some people just don't fit in with our crowd. You understand. Emily nodded quickly. Of course. We'll be very careful about the guest list. Linda felt like she had been slapped. Were they talking about her friends? The people who had watched Emily grow up? The people who had celebrated every one of Emily's achievements? After dinner, Linda pulled Emily aside. Honey, did you hear what she said about the guest list? Emily wouldn't look at her. Mom, please don't make this harder than it has to be. Make what harder? Look, Ryan's family has certain expectations. They're paying for the wedding. They get to decide some things. Including whether my friends can come? Emily was quiet for a long moment. Some of your friends might not be comfortable at a fancy country club, Mom. Think about it. Linda felt her heart breaking. Are you ashamed of me, Emily? No. Emily said quickly. But then she added, I just want to fit in with Ryan's family. Is that so wrong? It's wrong if you have to throw away everyone who loved you first. Emily turned away. You don't understand. This is my chance to have a different life. A life without me in it? Emily didn't answer. Over the next few months, Linda watched as Emily planned the most expensive wedding anyone in their neighborhood had ever seen. Everything had to be perfect. Everything had to be fancy. Everything had to impress Ryan's family. Linda tried to be involved, but Emily kept pushing her away. "Mom, we already picked the flowers," Emily would say when Linda offered to help. "We already chose the music. We already decided on the menu." We always meant Emily and Ryan's mother. Linda felt like a stranger in her own daughter's life. The worst part came when it was time to choose the wedding dress. "I want to come with you to pick out your dress," Linda said. "I've been dreaming about this day since you were little." Emily hesitated. "Actually, Mom, Mrs. Patterson already made appointments at the best bridal shops in the city. She's helping me pick out the dress." Linda felt tears sting her eyes. "But I'm your mother." "I know, but she knows about these things. She knows what looks expensive and classy. And I don't." Emily didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. Linda watched from the outside as Mrs. Patterson took over all the things a mother should do. She went dress shopping with Emily. She planned the bridal shower. She organized the rehearsal dinner. Linda felt like she was being erased from her own daughter's life. 2 weeks before the wedding, Emily came to Linda's apartment. She looked nervous. "Mom, we need to talk." Linda made tea and sat down across from her daughter. "What is it, honey?" Emily couldn't look at her. "It's about the wedding." "What about it?" "Mrs. Patterson thinks, and Ryan agrees, that maybe you shouldn't sit in the front row during the ceremony." Linda felt like the air had been knocked out of her lungs. "What?" "They think it might be better if you sat in the back. You know, so the important family members and business partners can sit up front." "I am family. I'm your mother." "I know, but..." "But what?" "But I'm not rich enough? But I don't wear expensive clothes? But I embarrass you." Emily finally looked up, and Linda saw that her daughter was crying. "Please don't make this harder, Mom. I just want my wedding day to be perfect." "Perfect for who? For you or for them?" Emily stood up to leave. "I hope you'll understand someday." Linda watched her daughter walk out the door and wondered if this was the last time she'd see the Emily she used to know. But Linda had no idea that the worst was yet to come. On the wedding day, she would discover just how far her daughter was willing to go to please her new family. The woman who had sacrificed everything for Emily's happiness was about to experience the deepest betrayal of her life. The morning of the wedding. Linda woke up early even though she had barely slept. Today was her daughter's wedding day, a day she had dreamed about for years. She looked at herself in the old mirror in her small bedroom. She had bought a new dress for the occasion, the simple yellow one that she thought made her look nice. It wasn't expensive, but it was the best she could afford. Linda had also bought new shoes, even though they pinched her feet a little. She wanted to look good for Emily's big day. She picked up the small wrapped gift from her dresser, the photo of her and Emily when Emily was little, with a loving message written on the back. Linda had also saved up to buy Emily a small gold necklace that had belonged to Linda's own mother. "Today my little girl becomes a wife," Linda whispered to herself. Despite everything that had happened, despite feeling pushed away, Linda still loved Emily with all her heart. Maybe after the wedding things would get better. Maybe Emily would remember how much her mother loved her. Linda took the bus to the fancy church where the wedding was being held. She couldn't afford a taxi, but she didn't mind. She was used to taking the bus everywhere. When Linda walked into the beautiful church, she felt out of place immediately. Everyone was dressed in expensive clothes and talking in quiet, proper voices. She recognized some of Ryan's family members from the dinner months ago. They looked at her the same way Mrs. Patterson had, like she didn't belong there. Linda found a seat in the middle of the church. She remembered that Emily had wanted her to sit in the back, but Linda couldn't bring herself to do it. She was the mother of the bride. She had raised Emily all by herself. She deserved to see her daughter get married. As more guests arrived, Linda noticed that none of her friends were there. None of the people from their old neighborhood. None of the people who had watched Emily grow up. It was like Emily's whole past had been erased. Linda felt alone and sad, but she tried to stay positive. This was Emily's day. She would be happy for her daughter no matter what. The ceremony begins. When the music started, Linda's heart filled with excitement. She was about to see her baby girl in her wedding dress. Emily appeared at the back of the church and Linda gasped. Emily looked absolutely beautiful, like a princess in a fairy tale. Her dress was covered in sparkles and had a long, flowing train. Linda started to cry happy tears. Despite everything, she was so proud of her daughter. But as Emily walked down the aisle, she didn't look at Linda. Not even once. Emily's eyes stayed focused straight ahead on Ryan and his family. Linda waved a little, hoping Emily would see her and smile. But Emily acted like Linda wasn't even there. The ceremony was beautiful. Emily and Ryan said their vows and exchanged rings. When the minister said, "You may kiss the bride," everyone clapped. Linda clapped too, even though her heart hurt. She was happy for Emily, but she felt invisible. After the ceremony, people started congratulating the happy couple. Linda waited for her turn to hug her daughter and tell her how beautiful she looked. But when Linda approached, Mrs. Patterson stepped in front of her. "Excuse me," Mrs. Patterson said coldly. "The family photos are being taken now. Professional photographers only want immediate family in the shots." "I am immediate family," Linda said politely. "I'm Emily's mother." Mrs. Patterson looked Linda up and down with disgust. "Yes, well, we're doing the Patterson family photos first. Perhaps you could wait over there." Linda looked past Mrs. Patterson to Emily, hoping her daughter would invite her into the photos. But Emily was busy talking to other people, pretending not to notice. Linda stepped back and watched as Ryan's family took photo after photo. They smiled and laughed like they were the only family Emily had ever had. Linda felt like her heart was being torn in two. Linda decided she couldn't wait any longer. She had to congratulate her daughter, no matter what Mrs. Patterson said. She walked up to Emily, who was surrounded by Ryan's friends and family members. "Emily," Linda said softly, touching her daughter's arm. "You look so beautiful, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." Emily turned around, and for a moment, Linda thought she saw love in her daughter's eyes. But then Emily looked around at all the people watching them. Mrs. Patterson whispered something in Ryan's ear. Ryan whispered something to Emily. Emily's face changed. "What are you doing here?" Emily asked loudly. Linda was confused. I'm here for your wedding. I'm your mother." "You're embarrassing me," Emily said loud enough for everyone to hear. The conversations around them stopped. People started staring. Linda felt her cheeks burn with shame. "Emily, please. I just wanted to give you your wedding gift and tell you how much I love you." But Emily was looking at Mrs. Patterson and Ryan, as if asking for permission to speak to her own mother. Mrs. Patterson shook her head slightly. That's when Emily made the choice that would change everything. "Security. Security." Emily called out, her voice cutting through the church like a knife. And that's how we got back to where our story began, with Linda being escorted out of her own daughter's wedding while everyone watched in shock. But what happened next was something nobody expected. As Linda sat on the church steps crying, other people started coming outside. Some were guests who had left the wedding early, disgusted by what they had seen. "That was terrible," Linda heard one woman say. "How could she do that to her own mother?" "I've never seen anything so cruel," said another person. An older man walked up to Linda. "Ma'am, I'm sorry about what happened in there. That wasn't right." More people came to comfort Linda. They were strangers, but they showed her more kindness than her own daughter had. One young woman was recording everything on her phone. "This is going on social media," she said angrily. "People need to see what kind of person Emily really is." Linda didn't know it yet, but that video was about to change everything. Inside the church, the wedding reception continued, but it didn't feel happy anymore. Guests whispered about what they had witnessed. Many people left early. Emily tried to pretend everything was fine, but she could feel people staring at her. She could hear the whispers. "Did you see what she did to her mother? That poor woman raised her all by herself. How ungrateful can you be?" For the first time since she had met Ryan's family, Emily started to wonder if she had made a terrible mistake. But it was too late. The damage was done. And soon the whole world would know what Emily had done. The next morning, Emily woke up in her hotel room feeling like something was wrong. She and Ryan had spent their first night as husband and wife at the fanciest hotel in the city, but Emily hadn't slept well. She kept thinking about her mother's face when security escorted her out. She kept hearing Linda's voice saying, "I forgive you." Emily tried to push these thoughts away. She had done what she had to do to fit in with Ryan's family. That was more important than her mother's feelings, right? Ryan was already awake, checking his phone. "What are you looking at?" Emily asked. Ryan's face was pale. "Emily, you need to see this." He handed her his phone and Emily's heart stopped. On the screen was a video titled, "Bride Kicks Her Own Mother Out of Wedding, You Won't Believe This." The video already had 2 million views, and it had only been posted 12 hours ago. Emily watched in horror as she saw herself on the screen, telling security to remove her mother. She watched Linda's shocked face, her tears, her quiet dignity as she was escorted out. "Turn it off," Emily whispered. But Ryan kept scrolling. "There's more." The comments under the video were brutal. "This is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. That poor mother sacrificed everything for this ungrateful brat. I hope this bride regrets this for the rest of her life. Someone find this mother and give her a hug." There were thousands and thousands of comments, and they were all saying the same thing. Emily was a terrible person. The storm gets bigger. By noon, the video had 5 million views. By evening, it had 10 million. News websites picked up the story. Heartless bride humiliates mother at wedding. Talk show hosts talked about it. This represents everything wrong with young people today. Social media influencers made response videos. Let's talk about this viral wedding disaster. Everyone was talking about Emily and nobody was saying anything good. Emily's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters wanted to interview her. Strangers were calling to yell at her. Her mailbox was full of angry messages. "We need to get ahead of this," Ryan said. "Maybe you should make an apology video." "Apologize for what?" Emily asked, even though she knew exactly what she should apologize for. "Are you serious right now?" Ryan stared at his wife. "The whole world hates you, Emily. This is affecting my family's reputation too." Emily realized that Ryan wasn't worried about her feelings. He was worried about how this made him look. By the end of the week, Emily had lost her job. Her boss called her into the office with a serious face. "Emily, we've gotten hundreds of calls about you," her boss explained. "Our clients don't want to work with someone who treats their mother that way. I'm sorry, but we have to let you go." Emily's friends started avoiding her. People she had known for years wouldn't return her phone calls. Even her neighbors looked at her differently. She could hear them whispering when she walked by. "That's the girl from the video. The one who kicked out her mother. I can't believe she lives in our building." Emily felt trapped in her own life. Everywhere she went, people recognized her as the heartless bride from the viral video. While Emily's life was falling apart, Linda was experiencing something she never expected: love from strangers. People from all over the world were sending her messages of support. "You seem like such a sweet mother. Your daughter doesn't deserve you. I wish you were my mom. You're clearly amazing. Don't let this break your heart. You raised her right, she just forgot who she was." Local news stations wanted to interview Linda, but she politely said no. She didn't want to make things worse for Emily, even though Emily had hurt her so badly. A kind stranger started a fundraising page for Linda called "Help This Amazing Mother." People donated money to help Linda, who had worked so hard her whole life. Within a week, strangers had donated $50,000 to Linda. "I can't accept this," Linda told the organizer. "I didn't do anything special." "Yes, you did," the woman replied. "You showed the world what real love looks like. You forgave your daughter even when she was cruel to you. That's not something just anyone can do." Linda used some of the money to finally fix the heat in her apartment. She used some to buy new work clothes. But mostly she saved it, hoping that someday she and Emily could work things out. As the weeks went by, Emily noticed that Ryan was different. He was colder to her. He seemed embarrassed to be seen with her in public. Ryan's family was even worse. "This whole situation is very unfortunate," Mrs. Patterson said during a family dinner. "People at the country club keep asking us about that awful video. Maybe if Emily made a public apology?" Mr. Patterson suggested. "I'm not apologizing," Emily said stubbornly. "I did what I thought was right." But inside, Emily wasn't sure anymore. She missed her mother more than she wanted to admit. She missed their long phone calls. She missed Linda's advice. She missed feeling loved unconditionally. Ryan's family didn't love her unconditionally. They loved her as long as she made them look good. And right now she was making them look very bad. 3 months after the wedding, Ryan started being mean to Emily in private. "You've ruined everything," he would say when they fought. "My family is embarrassed by you. My friends won't invite us anywhere." "I thought you loved me," Emily would reply. "I loved the person I thought you were. I didn't know you were the kind of person who could be so cruel to your own mother." This confused Emily. Ryan and his family were the ones who had encouraged her to push her mother away. Now Ryan was blaming her for doing exactly what they wanted. One day, Emily tried to explain this to Ryan. "Your mother told me to keep my mom away from the wedding," she said. "Your family made me feel ashamed of where I came from." Ryan looked at her like she was crazy. "Nobody forced you to do anything, Emily. You made those choices yourself. Don't blame my family for your own actions." Emily realized with horror that Ryan was right. Mrs. Patterson and the others had influenced her, but Emily was the one who chose to hurt her mother. Emily was the one who chose to prioritize fitting in over love. Emily was the one who chose to break her own mother's heart. And now she was living with the consequences of those choices. But the worst was still yet to come. 6 months after the wedding, Emily thought things couldn't get worse, but she was wrong. Very wrong. Ryan had become a completely different person. The charming, loving man she had fallen in love with was gone. Now he was cold, mean, and controlling. "You can't go out with your friends," Ryan would say. "What friends?" Emily would reply sadly. "They all stopped talking to me after the video." "Good. You don't need friends. You have me and my family." But Ryan's family didn't want Emily around either. They made excuses not to invite her to family dinners. When she did come, they ignored her or made comments about that embarrassing wedding incident. Emily felt more alone than she had ever felt in her life. She started to think about her mother more and more. She remembered how Linda used to listen to all her problems. She remembered how Linda always made her feel better when she was sad. But Emily was too proud to call. She told herself that her mother probably hated her now anyway. One evening, Ryan came home from work looking angry. "Emily, we need to talk," he said in a scary voice. "What's wrong?" Emily asked. "My mother's diamond bracelet is missing." Emily felt confused. "Okay, did she lose it somewhere?" Ryan stared at Emily with cold eyes. "She thinks you took it." "What?" Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Ryan, you know I would never steal anything." "Do I know that?" Ryan asked. "You're the kind of person who throws her own mother out of her wedding. What else are you capable of?" Emily felt like she had been slapped. "How can you say that to me? I'm your wife." "Maybe my mother is right," Ryan continued. "Maybe you only married me for my money. Maybe you've been planning to steal from us all along." "That's not true." Emily cried, tears streaming down her face. "I love you." But Ryan had already made up his mind. His family's opinion mattered more to him than his wife's feelings. The next day, Mrs. Patterson came to Emily and Ryan's apartment with 2 police officers. "There she is," Mrs. Patterson said, pointing at Emily like she was a criminal. "The thief." Emily was so shocked she could barely speak. "Mrs. Patterson, I didn't take your bracelet. I would never." "Don't lie to me, you little gold digger," Mrs. Patterson said with hate in her voice. "I knew from the beginning that you were just using my son for his money. A girl from your background, we should have known you'd try to steal from us." The police officers looked uncomfortable. They could tell this was more about family drama than actual crime. "Ma'am," one officer said to Mrs. Patterson, "do you have any proof that this young woman took your bracelet?" Mrs. Patterson's face turned red. "I don't need proof. Look at where she comes from. Look at what she did to her own mother. People like that can't be trusted." Emily realized with horror that Mrs. Patterson was using Emily's treatment of Linda as evidence that Emily was a bad person. The worst moment of Emily's life was now being used against her by the family she had tried so hard to please. "Ryan," Emily turned to her husband, begging with her eyes. "Please tell them I didn't do this. You know me. You know I'm not a thief." But Ryan looked away. "I don't know what to believe anymore, Emily." In that moment, Emily's heart broke completely. The man she had married, the man she had given up her mother for, didn't even believe in her innocence. "I want her out of this house immediately," Mrs. Patterson announced. "She's not welcome in this family anymore." "But this is my home too," Emily said desperately. "Ryan, we're married." Ryan finally looked at her, but his eyes were cold. "My mother is right. I think you should leave." Emily couldn't believe what was happening. "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not our problem anymore," Mrs. Patterson said cruelly. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you tried to steal from us." "I didn't steal anything." Emily screamed, but nobody believed her. Within an hour, Emily was standing on the sidewalk with just one suitcase. Everything else, her clothes, her jewelry, her photos, was left behind in the apartment she was no longer allowed to enter. She had no job. She had no friends. She had no money. And worst of all, she had no family, because she had thrown away the one person who would have always been there for her. As Emily sat on a bench in the park, homeless and alone, she finally understood what had happened. Ryan's family had never loved her. They had never accepted her. They had used her shame about her mother against her, and then they had thrown her away when she became inconvenient. She had given up the one person who truly loved her, her mother, for people who never cared about her at all. Emily thought about Linda, probably at home in their old apartment, probably worried about why Emily hadn't called in months. Linda, who had worked 2 jobs to pay for Emily's piano lessons. Linda, who had sewn Emily's prom dress by hand because they couldn't afford to buy one. Linda, who had taken out loans to help pay for Emily's college. Linda, who had loved Emily more than anything in the world. Linda, who Emily had humiliated in front of hundreds of people. Emily cried until she had no tears left. Emily spent 3 days sleeping in the park and eating food from trash cans. She had never been so hungry, so cold, or so scared in her life. Finally, she realized she had only one choice. She had to go home. She had to face her mother and beg for forgiveness. She had to admit that she had made the biggest mistake of her life. But would Linda even want to see her? After everything Emily had done, after all the pain she had caused, would her mother still love her? Emily was about to find out. With shaking hands, she picked up her suitcase and started walking toward the bus stop that would take her back to her old neighborhood. Back to the small apartment where she had grown up. Back to the woman who had loved her first and longest. Back to her mother. The walk of shame was about to begin. Emily had no money for a taxi, so she had to take 3 different buses to get back to her old neighborhood. Each bus ride felt like it took forever. She looked terrible. Her hair was messy. Her clothes were dirty from sleeping in the park. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Other passengers stared at her, probably wondering what had happened to make her look so broken. Emily stared out the window and watched the city change as she got closer to home. The fancy buildings became smaller and older. The expensive shops became simple stores and diners. This was the world she had been so ashamed of. This was the life she had tried to escape. But now it felt like the only safe place left. When Emily got off the last bus, she was standing on the street where she had grown up. Everything looked exactly the same, but Emily felt like a completely different person than when she had left. She walked slowly toward her mother's apartment building, her suitcase wheels making noise on the broken sidewalk. Mrs. Garcia from apartment 2B was sweeping her front steps. She looked up and saw Emily. "Emily?" Mrs. Garcia said, surprised. "Is that you?" Emily nodded, too embarrassed to speak. Mrs. Garcia had watched Emily grow up. She had been one of the people Emily hadn't invited to the wedding because they weren't fancy enough. "Your mother has been so worried about you," Mrs. Garcia said kindly. "She hasn't heard from you in months." Emily felt a new wave of guilt. Her mother had been worried and Emily hadn't even called. Is she home?" Emily asked quietly. "She's at work. She'll be home around 6 o'clock. Emily looked at her old cell phone. It was 4:30 p.m. She would have to wait. Emily sat on the steps outside her mother's apartment building, just like she used to do when she was little and forgot her key. She remembered all the times Linda had come home from her long days at work, tired but always happy to see Emily. "There's my beautiful girl," Linda would say, even when Emily was grumpy or had gotten in trouble at school. Emily remembered the smell of Linda's perfume, not expensive perfume, just a simple scent from the drugstore, but it always made Emily feel safe. She remembered how Linda would make her favorite snacks and listen to all of Emily's stories about her day. She remembered how Linda would stroke her hair when Emily was sick and couldn't sleep. She remembered feeling loved, completely and unconditionally loved, every single day. How had she thrown all of that away? At exactly 6:15 p.m., Emily saw her mother walking down the street. Linda looked older than Emily remembered. Her hair had more gray in it. She walked a little slower than before. Emily's heart started beating fast. What would she say? How could she possibly explain what she had done? Linda was looking down at her phone, probably checking messages when she got to the apartment building steps. She looked up and saw Emily sitting there. Linda stopped walking. Her mouth fell open. "Emily?" she whispered. Emily stood up slowly, tears already starting to fall. "Hi, Mom." For a long moment, mother and daughter just stared at each other. Linda looked at Emily's messy hair, her dirty clothes, her red eyes. Immediately, her motherly instincts kicked in. "Are you hurt? Are you sick? What happened?" Emily started crying harder. Even after everything, her mother's first concern was whether Emily was okay. "Mom, Emily tried to speak but couldn't get the words out. Linda dropped her purse and rushed to Emily, pulling her into a tight hug. "It's okay, baby," Linda whispered, stroking Emily's hair just like she used to when Emily was little. "It's okay. You're home now." Emily cried into her mother's shoulder, feeling safe for the first time in months. Linda led Emily into the small apartment. It looked exactly the same as when Emily had left, old but clean, simple but warm. Linda made Emily sit down on the couch while she went to make tea. Emily noticed that Linda still had pictures of her all over the apartment. Pictures from when Emily was little, pictures from her college graduation, even a picture from Emily's engagement party. Despite everything Emily had done, Linda had kept her daughter's pictures up. Linda came back with 2 cups of tea and sat down next to Emily. "Now," Linda said gently, "tell me what happened." And Emily did. She told her mother everything. She told Linda about how Ryan's family had made her feel ashamed of her background. She told her about how they had convinced her that Linda would embarrass her at the wedding. She told her about how she had chosen their approval over her mother's love. She told her about how Ryan had become mean and controlling. She told her about how Mrs. Patterson had accused her of stealing and kicked her out of the house. She told her about sleeping in the park and having nowhere else to go. Linda listened to everything without interrupting. Sometimes she shook her head sadly. Sometimes tears filled her eyes. But she never once said, "I told you so," or, "You deserve this." When Emily finished her story, she looked at her mother with desperate eyes. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry for being ashamed of you. I'm sorry for kicking you out of my wedding. I'm sorry for choosing them over you. I'm sorry for being such a terrible daughter." Emily was crying so hard she could barely breathe. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," Emily continued. "I know I hurt you more than anyone should ever hurt their mother. But I'm begging you, please give me one more chance. I'll do anything to make this right. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Linda was quiet for a long moment. She looked at her daughter, really looked at her. She saw the little girl who used to help her make pancakes on Sunday mornings. She saw the teenager who used to tell her all her secrets. She saw the young woman who had once promised never to forget her mother's sacrifices. Finally, Linda spoke. "Emily, I forgave you the moment it happened." Emily looked up in shock. "I forgave you when you had me escorted out of your wedding," Linda continued. "I forgave you during all the months you didn't call. I forgave you before you even came here to apologize." "But why?" Emily asked. "How could you forgive me so easily?" Linda smiled through her tears. "Because that's what mothers do, sweetheart. We love our children no matter what. We forgive them no matter what. That love doesn't have conditions." Emily threw her arms around her mother and hugged her as tight as she could. "But," Linda said gently, pulling back to look at Emily, "forgiveness doesn't mean things can go back to exactly how they were." Linda explained what she meant. "I forgive you, Emily, but I can't pretend that what happened didn't hurt me deeply. I can't pretend that I trust you the same way I used to." Emily nodded. She understood. "Trust has to be rebuilt slowly," Linda continued. "And it has to be earned through actions, not just words." "I'll do anything," Emily promised. "I'll prove to you that I've changed. I'll show you that I remember who I really am and where I came from." Linda smiled. "I believe you want to change. And I'm willing to help you do that. But it's going to take time." Emily nodded again. "I have time. I have all the time in the world now." Linda made up the couch for Emily to sleep on that night. As Emily lay down with her mother's blanket tucked around her, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Peace. She was home. She was safe. She was loved. It wouldn't be easy to rebuild their relationship. Emily would have to prove herself every day. She would have to show through her actions that she had learned from her mistakes. But for the first time since her wedding day, Emily had hope. She had her mother back. And maybe, with time and effort, she could become the daughter Linda deserved again. As Emily drifted off to sleep, she thought about everything that had happened. She had tried to become someone she wasn't. She had chosen status over love. She had been ashamed of the woman who had given her everything. And in the end, she had lost everything, except the one thing that really mattered. Her mother's love had been there all along, waiting for her to come home. Some people spend their whole lives looking for unconditional love. Emily had thrown it away for people who never really cared about her at all. But she had learned something important. Real love doesn't come from having fancy things or impressing rich people. Real love comes from the people who stick by you when you have nothing left. Real love comes from the people who forgive you even when you don't deserve it. Real love comes from mothers who work 2 jobs to give their children better lives. Real love comes from home. Emily had finally learned the most important lesson of her life. She just hoped it wasn't too late to rebuild everything she had destroyed. Only time would tell if she could earn back her mother's trust and become the daughter Linda deserved. But tonight, wrapped in her mother's forgiveness, Emily slept peacefully for the first time in months. She was home. Emily woke up every morning at 5:30 a.m., just like her mother always had. She would make coffee for Linda before she left for work, and then Emily would spend her day job hunting. It wasn't easy. The viral video still followed her everywhere. When potential employers Googled her name, the first thing they saw was "Heartless Bride Kicks Mother Out of Wedding." "I'm sorry," the manager at the grocery store said after Emily's interview. "We can't hire someone with your reputation." It would be bad for business. Emily heard this same rejection over and over again. But she didn't give up. Finally, a small diner across town agreed to give her a chance. The owner, Mr. Chin, was an older man who believed in second chances. Everyone makes mistakes, he told Emily. What matters is how you fix them. Emily started as a dishwasher, working long hours for minimum wage. Her hands got red and cracked from the hot water and soap. Her feet ached from standing all day. But she didn't complain. Not once. When Linda came home from her own job, Emily would have dinner ready. She would ask about Linda's day and really listen to the answers. She would help with household chores without being asked. You don't have to do all this, Linda said one evening. Yes, I do, Emily replied. I have 25 years of taking you for granted to make up for. Emily started doing little things to show her love, things she should have been doing all along. She would leave notes in Linda's lunch bag. Thank you for loving me even when I didn't deserve it. She would pick up Linda's favorite flowers from the discount store on payday. She would record Linda's favorite TV shows when Linda had to work late. Most importantly, Emily listened. Really listened. She asked Linda about her childhood, her dreams, her fears. For the first time, Emily saw her mother as a complete person, not just as someone who existed to take care of her. I never knew you wanted to be a teacher, Emily said one night as they shared tea. Linda smiled sadly. I had to drop out of college when I got pregnant with you. But I don't regret it. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. Emily felt tears sting her eyes. Even after everything I did? Especially after everything you did, Linda said. Because now I know you understand what love really means. 3 months into working at the diner, Emily's worst nightmare happened. A customer recognized her. Hey, aren't you that girl from the wedding video? The young woman asked loudly. The one who threw out her own mother? The entire diner went quiet. Everyone turned to stare at Emily. Emily's first instinct was to run and hide. But she thought about her mother's courage, her mother's dignity in the face of humiliation. Emily took a deep breath and walked over to the woman's table. Yes, that's me, Emily said clearly. And it was the worst mistake of my life. The woman looked surprised. She had probably expected Emily to deny it or get angry. I hurt the person who loved me most in the world, Emily continued. I chose status over family. I was wrong and I'm spending every day trying to make it right. Emily turned to address the whole diner. If anyone wants to leave because I work here, I understand. But I hope you'll give me a chance to show you that people can change. Nobody left. In fact, several customers nodded at Emily with what looked like respect. Later, Mr. Chen pulled Emily aside. That took courage, he said. I'm proud of you. One rainy Tuesday, Emily was working the morning shift when someone familiar walked into the diner. It was Mrs. Garcia from the old neighborhood. Emily, Mrs. Garcia said warmly. I heard you were working here. Emily braced herself for judgment, but Mrs. Garcia's face was kind. Your mother told me you moved back home, Mrs. Garcia continued. She's so happy to have you back. I don't know if I deserve her happiness, Emily said honestly. Mrs. Garcia studied Emily's face. You know, baby, I watched you grow up. I saw how much your mother loved you and I saw how much you loved her too. That love doesn't just disappear. She paused, looking around the diner. It takes strength to start over. It takes even more strength to admit when you're wrong. Mrs. Garcia ordered coffee and pie, and before she left, she hugged Emily. Welcome home, she whispered. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, Emily's phone rang. She almost didn't answer when she saw the name. Ryan. Emily? Ryan's voice sounded different, smaller, less confident. What do you want, Ryan? I wanted to apologize. And to tell you something important. Emily waited. My mother found her bracelet. It was in her jewelry box the whole time. She knew you didn't take it. Emily felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. She knew. She wanted to get rid of you and she used the bracelet as an excuse. I'm so sorry, Emily. I should have believed you. I should have stood up for you. Emily was quiet for a long moment. A few months ago, this news would have made her furious. Now she felt something different. Pity. Why are you telling me this now? She asked. Ryan's voice cracked. Because I realized I lost the only real person in my life. My mother and her friends, they're all fake. They only care about money and status. But you were real. At least, you were real before we changed you. I changed myself, Ryan. Nobody forced me to hurt my mother. But we encouraged it. We made you feel ashamed of your family. Emily looked around the small diner where she now worked, then thought of her mother at home, probably reading a book in her favorite chair. You know what, Ryan? I'm glad it happened. What? I'm glad your mother accused me of stealing. I'm glad you threw me out. Because it brought me back to where I belong. Ryan was silent. I hope you find someone who makes you happy, Emily continued. But more than that, I hope you find someone who makes you want to be a better person. The way my mother makes me want to be better. Emily hung up the phone and went back to work. On a busy Friday night, Emily was covering for a sick waitress, rushing between tables with plates of food. She accidentally bumped into a customer, spilling soup on his expensive suit. The man jumped up angrily. Look what you've done. This suit costs more than you make in a month. Emily felt her face burn with embarrassment. All eyes in the diner were on her. But instead of apologizing frantically like she might have months ago, Emily stood straight and spoke calmly. I'm very sorry about your suit, sir. I'll pay for the dry cleaning, of course. But treating service workers with respect doesn't cost anything. The man's face turned red. Do you know who I am? No, Emily said simply. And it doesn't matter. We're all just people trying to get through our day. Mr. Chin appeared at Emily's side. Is there a problem here? Your waitress is incredibly rude, the man sputtered. Mr. Chin looked at Emily, then at the man. Emily is one of my best employees. She works hard, she's honest, and she treats everyone with kindness. If you can't treat my staff with respect, you're welcome to eat somewhere else. The man stormed out, but the other customers started clapping. Good for you, honey, said an older woman. Some people think money makes them better than everyone else. Emily felt something shift inside her chest. For the first time since the wedding, she felt proud of herself. 1 year after Emily had come home, she woke up early and made her mother breakfast in bed. What's this for? Linda asked, surprised. It's been exactly 1 year since I came home, Emily said. 1 year since you saved my life by forgiving me. Linda patted the bed and Emily sat down beside her. You saved your own life, sweetheart. I just gave you a safe place to do it. Emily had prepared a speech, but looking at her mother now, the words came from her heart instead. Mom, I want you to know that this year has been the best year of my life. Linda raised her eyebrows. Really? Even though you lost your husband, your job, your fancy life? Especially because of that, Emily said. I lost all the things that didn't matter and I found the one thing that does. I found my way back to you. I found my way back to myself. Linda smiled. And what did you find when you got back to yourself? I found out that I'm Linda Martinez's daughter, Emily said proudly. I'm strong like you. I'm hardworking like you. I'm capable of unconditional love like you. Linda's eyes filled with tears. You always were those things, Emily. You just forgot for a while. I'll never forget again. 2 years after coming home, Emily had worked her way up to assistant manager at the diner. She was saving money to go back to school part-time, hoping to become a social worker. I want to help other people who have lost their way, she told her mother. The way you helped me find mine. The viral video still existed online, but now Emily saw it differently. Instead of a source of shame, it had become a reminder of who she never wanted to be again. Sometimes people still recognized her, but the conversations were different now. You're that girl from the wedding video? A young woman said one day. Yes, Emily replied confidently. I just wanted to say, I showed that video to my daughter. I told her that's what happens when you forget where you come from and who loves you. Emily smiled. I hope she never has to learn that lesson the hard way like I did. On quiet evenings, Emily and Linda would sit together on their small couch, watching TV or just talking. Emily would look around their simple apartment, the same apartment she had once been ashamed of, and feel completely content. This was home. This was love. This was enough. Linda was getting older now, and sometimes Emily would catch her looking tired after long days at work. Mom, when I graduate and get my social work degree, you're going to retire, Emily announced one evening. I don't need to retire, Linda protested. Yes, you do. You spent your whole life taking care of me. Now it's my turn to take care of you. Linda reached over and squeezed Emily's hand. You're already taking care of me, sweetheart. Every day. Emily squeezed back. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry it took me so long to realize that your love was the greatest gift I'd ever been given. I love you too, baby. And I'm proud of the woman you've become. Emily smiled, thinking about how far they'd both come. She had learned that real success wasn't measured in designer clothes or country club memberships. It was measured in the people who would still love you when you had nothing left. It was measured in the woman who would forgive you even when you didn't deserve it. It was measured in coming home. As mother and daughter sat together in their small but warm apartment, Emily finally understood what she had been searching for all along. She had been looking for acceptance, for belonging, for love. She had always had it. She had just been looking in all the wrong places. Now finally, Emily was exactly where she belonged. Home with the person who had loved her first and would love her last. The girl who had once kicked her mother out of her wedding had become a woman who would never leave her mother's side again. And that was the ending both of them deserved. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Like, share, subscribe, and comment on the lessons learned. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. See you in the next video.